So I wanted to give this game a bit of a day 2 assessment, because my day 1 was a bit of a rant because I lost Iron Man mode and I was a little bit salty, I was a little bit peeved, I wasn't happy with the timed missions and that kind of thing. So now I figured things out a little bit. My answer to my rant was wondering about how if I would have got the sniper to the drop point. You have to get all the people to the drop point, but even if they sprint to it, they can use a third action to get out of the drop point. So it's not that bad. You just have to really time things and rush the timed missions. The timed missions are difficult, and they're going to be very difficult with Iron Man Legend mode. So I'm still not a big fan of them, how they just magically make you get captured and instead of like having to fight for your life. So still not a fan of it. I haven't changed my opinion on those timed VIP missions. However, I've gotten some RNG, and those missions that I got were a little bit easier this time around, and I was able to do them with many turns left. I know they're going to pick up and get a little bit harder. As for everything else, the excavating, the customization of the building and stuff, it's a lot less than in XCOM 1. If this was something that you really like to do in XCOM 1, it's not as interesting by far. Like, all I've built so far, and I'm 12 missions deep into the game now, I've built a power relay, a workshop, and a tactics school. And before, I would have had so many different things, and I'd be planning it a little bit. However, you have the ability to upgrade them. So I've upgraded this workshop, so while there is only 12 slots, they are upgradable. So, and you can assign people to them. There's a little bit more to it, I'd say. Like, there's more depth per item, which is cool. But I still kind of wish there was a little bit more strategic thinking going into this stuff. But we'll see as we go further into the game. I still have no idea how deep the game is. There are some unexplained things going on that I'm not too happy about, which I will figure out later on. The Avatar project. There's a dark event about to happen in 3 more turns, and I don't know if the game ends. I don't know what happens, but I'm supposed to stop them here, but I have no way of accessing that, and I have no way of really making contact with these guys, and I do need intel to do that, and I'm not really able to do that. So I mean, I think I have to make contact with these guys and make contact with these guys and these guys before this time runs out. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. So the game itself seems time sensitive, and that might be something that pisses me off later, but I don't know. But so far, the whole traveling around, going to different missions, there was less RNG in there than I expected. You do have choice, and you have to kind of strategize your choices a bit, so I'm a little bit happier with how it worked out than in my first rant. It's kind of working out a little bit better than I anticipated. But there's still like, how are these things locked? How do I unlock them? And there's things that aren't really explained to you that you're going to learn through your mistakes. So I'm sure on my next playthrough, I'm going to be like, I know how to unlock this right away, and I got to do this thing and rush for it. But as of right now, I'm feeling a little bit in the blue. I'm feeling a little bit lost. However, I had been having fun doing this, and recovering these zones is much like recovering satellite areas in XCOM 1. It feels a little bit easier. The map system in Fallout, in XCOM 1, you had to get the satellites before they got shot down, and they were going down every month depending on your difficulty, and you don't seem to be losing countries in this. So, or at least I'm not. Maybe these are being taken over. I don't really know, but it feels a little bit easier in the map sense of things. Going on, the character classes. The character classes I'm not too impressed by in this XCOM. So far, if we go to tactical school, you can actually do this thing, which I don't believe that maybe they did have this in XCOM 1. I'm having a hard time remembering, but you can send them to school. There's 4 classes in this game, at least from what I can tell right now. There's a Grenadier, which is the heavy. There's a Ranger, which was the assault class. The Sharpshooter, which was the sniper. And the Specialist, which was the support. So they just changed the names. It's the exact same game as it was before. Now the Ranger gets this cool ability to specialize into swords. And with the assault class before, you kind of went with run and gun, and you did the zigzag. And all assault classes kind of felt the same. So now you can kind of go assault, like shotgun surgeon or sword surgeon. So they kind of they split off the assault class a little bit better. Grenadier so far seems the exact same as the heavy. I can't really notice too many differences other than the fact that instead of getting extra grenades, they have a grenade launcher. so they actually shoot the grenades. It has a bigger AoE. It's like the same game with slight improvements. The sharpshooter has the ability to specialize between sniping and pistols, but that's something that they did with the XCOM Enemy Within, or Enemy Unknown, sorry, the expansion pack. They did that, so it feels pretty much the exact same with some minor tweaks. I still feel like they could have done some better stuff with this. And the Specialist is probably, in my opinion, the most changed. Other than the Ranger having a sword, which isn't really a big change. Like I said, it's like the Assault class with a sword, and now you get to choose shotgun or sword, and instead of running gunning, they sprint and stab. It's essentially the same class, but the sword is a nice little touch. It's a nice touch for sure. The Specialist probably feels the most changed to me. Where before, the Specialist would kind of go, or the support class would kind of go into heavy grenades. You'd have a lot more grenades. You could smoke grenade them, give people cover with grenades, and then they would be the medic. But now you have this little robot, and they're more of a engineer kind of class. They can send the robot from long distances to hack things, hack robots, hack enemies. A lot of little neat things that they can do on that side. It makes me want to play a robotic specialist and a medic specialist, and I've kind of been doing that so far. So you can diversify them one way or the other. The Grenader, I haven't really noticed any diversity, but I haven't really fully leveled one up high. And the Sharpshooter, the pistol character is like awesome, and it's almost making the Sniper feel not as good. Class-wise, I was kind of wishing there would be a 5th and 6th class in here, to be honest. And I'm waiting for one, and I'm hoping there's going to be a 5th and 6th class. And I noticed that $21 pack that you can buy at the day one, which is ridiculous, that it's a day one DLC pack, or a collector's edition pack for $21, and you don't get the content until midsummer. Who does that? Buy this bonus collector's edition or whatever it is, and you get it later. So basically you're paying $21 now for DLC later. Why didn't they just make it a season pass, and then in summer bring in a whole bunch of missions with that? So I think the summer pack includes a 5th class. So let's just say you do get that. Fine, you get a 5th class, but you have to pay for it, and that's not until summer. So as far as the classes go, I'm not that impressed. The way they start off, like their first initial abilities, I would have at least expected everyone to have one extra thing. Like the Specialist can do one extra thing right off the bat, and the Sharpshooter can maybe, you know, each one of them, I could sit here and you know, sit down for a little while and come up with a couple ideas. You know, like the Ranger, if you run by the Ranger, which I've had happen, he should automatically try and swing his sword. Like something extra, something neat. Like the Grenader does get 2 grenades, so that's something extra, but no one else really gets any extra stuff. So I feel like the classes needed some work. I'm not that impressed, considering you have all these really cool new enemy types, but your characters aren't as cool. It's like, give me their classes. I want to play with their units. So enemy types, they're way better. I've seen some really cool stuff so far. There was a snake character that pulls you in and wraps you up. It's kind of like those invisible droids from the Enemy Unknown. Those guys that would take out the snipers and stuff. And I honestly didn't. They said that they used to be the long men, and now that the long men, or the thin men, don't have room, or sorry, they don't have a need to be stealthed anymore. They revealed themselves as snakes, the reptilians. But I honestly felt like they didn't need to say something like that. They could have either brought back the thin men or just forgotten about them completely, because the snake things are cool as they are. So the enemy types have been way better improved. I had this mech thing scare the crap out of me, and it was really cool. It threw me off surprise. Some of my characters weren't able to shoot it with bullets, so we ended up having to throw grenades at it and then kill it with our sword guys. And if I didn't have that, I felt like that thing probably would have just mowed us down. So that was cool. There were a lot of different unique enemy types that I've seen so far in these 12 missions, and they all have their own unique abilities and strategies and AI tactics. So on the enemy side of things, they have been improved. On our side of things, I feel like we have the same characters as before that have new names and maybe a few talent points changed. I'm gonna have to reassess my opinion once all my guys are corporals or whatever it is, the final upgrade. You know, what else is there to talk about? The engineering aspect, the building items. There's some extra toys in here. So far I've gotten like a battle scanner. I think that was in the first one though. And some psionic shield, smoke grenades. I'm pretty sure all this stuff. The mimic beacon, I think that might be new. You can deploy a thing and it makes a copy of one of your guys as a distraction. But I'm pretty sure most of the stuff was in here. And as far as the armor and the weapons go, it's all the same thing, linear tiers. Instead of, you know, before you would go from ballistics to lasers to like plasma to something else. It's the same thing here. Now you're going from ballistics to magnetics to shock to something else, and the armor, exact same thing. So as far as like items and stuff, it feels the exact same. Character classes, the exact same. Mission types almost feel easier. So to talk on some of the missions, other than the timed mission that I freaked out about in my first day one review, the missions feel easier. In XCOM 1, there was always like, okay, you did this thing, now prepare for wave 2. Prepare for reinforcements. Now you have to clear the area. This one, I'm feeling like there's 2-3 waves of enemies and the mission's done. I'm actually quite surprised at the end of every mission that it's done. Enemies drop loot now. And while that's cool, it's also become just an annoyance, because if you kill the last guy and there's loot on the ground and the ship comes to pick you up and it ends the mission automatically, you can't take another turn if you so choose to, they don't pick up the loot that's on the ground. So if you have one enemy left and there's loot all over the ground, you have to use your last turn to go pick up all the loot and then try and kill that enemy to ensure that you bring the loot home. It's a little bit of a mistake that they didn't say, okay, you get a, you know, the ship scoops up all the loot when it picks you up. You know, that's whatever. But I do like the idea, like, collecting the loot. It's kind of like in XCOM Enemy Unknown, you had to go collect these samples from things. I like that, because it's something extra to bring home, and it takes you a little bit of a risk to go get it. But most times, if you kill an enemy, you're going to be able to go grab the loot. So it's just an inconvenience now that you have to move somebody over there and kind of postpone things before the ship comes. Living quarters, command quarters, research, it's all the same. There's actually, they've trimmed it down. You don't have to go to some air flight pad anymore. They took that out. You don't have to go to the command quarters. You don't have to go to the living quarters. There's really, every time I come back to base, I set a research, I go on the map and I check for a different spot. It allows you to really just go to the map, go to a new place, go to the map, go to the new place. There's a lot less tinkering. So if you really like the base tinkering, I feel like there's a lot less of it. It brings good things and it brings bad things to the table. The good thing is you get to go back out there quick as possible. But at the same time, you're spending more time at the map, scanning, moving here, scanning, moving here. And then there's also been times where, you know, I've been notified by this thing, and I come back here and then go to the map, and then I scan, and then I've been notified by this thing, I come back, and I do that thing, and I go back. And it just becomes this back and forth tug of war, yin, 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 yin. And it's kind of been getting annoying. But that was also a part of XCOM. But I remember in XCOM 1, you had this like one thing going, and then it would complete, and then you know, they both had their downfalls. But I noticed that in this one, there were a few times where I was like doing a 2-day thing on this, a 4-day thing on this, and I was just kind of getting interrupted all the time. And I remember sometimes in XCOM 1, I'd have something on 14 days, so I wasn't bothered by, hey, new research complete, hey, new person has arrived, new this has arrived. So there was one time where I just jumped back and forth like 10 times in a row, and I was like, I just want to go to the next mission, and it was just hounding me to constantly, you know, receive a new upgrade and start a new upgrade and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a little bit less depth. In XCOM 1, I was remembering, like, I have to get this power thing, then I have to get this, then I gotta go, I rush for the satellites, and then if you didn't get the satellites up, the satellites would burn down at the end of the month, and it was a huge part of the tactics, was getting those satellites up ASAP. And after you got the satellites, you wanted to try and get like a officer command thing, or a tactics school, and they wanted to start training your guys. And I honestly felt like the tactics in XCOM, the building tactics, the excavating tactics, and where you're planning, there's a little bit of smoke steam in the first one where you wanted to get your power generators there because you get a bonus. And then there was also building things adjacent, so you could build 3 adjacent and they would all link up, and you would get a multiplier for, you know, pairing them up. And there's a lot more strategy to the base building in XCOM 1. Here I feel like you're just kind of doing one thing at a time as they allow you to do it, and then it has some little bit of extra tiers to it. So there's nothing new here as far as I can see. And if anything, there's less. I haven't found a robotics facility. I haven't found we had the workshop before, and then they had another one. I can't remember what it was called. There was like the workshop and then like something else bay, the factory or something. And then you had the psionics lab and then the robotics lab. And so far we don't have any of those. So they'd be trimming down things, but I really like the psionics labs where you could give your guys the ability to jump super high and run super fast. I haven't seen that yet, but we're only 12 missions in. But I'm starting to get worried. Because some of the stuff was available to you within 12 missions of XCOM Enemy Unknown. So maybe they're trying to do this as a sequel and there's going to be an expansion what's going to bring more stuff, but it's going to just bring more of the stuff that we already had. So at this point, at this very stage, if you're looking to get XCOM 2 and you've never played XCOM 1 or Enemy Unknown, I'd say go grab Enemy Unknown for the Steam sale. I believe it's on sale right now. The XCOM Enemy Unknown with the mechs and the psionics and all the cool stuff that it has, you're going to have more fun with your team. And your team is what you're playing with. You're going to be jumping up walls, you're going to be running fast at guys, you're going to be running and gunning, and you're going to have all these really fucking cool abilities to play with. And it doesn't really matter about the enemy types. And then when you get to XCOM 2, you're going to be excited at the new enemy types. As far as the tools that you get to play with, the things you get to tinker with, the things you're going to have fun with, they feel lessened. There feels like there's less of them. They just feel reinvented. They're reinvented versions of the old stuff. And are those reinventions better? I like the support class with the robot that follows him around. I love that touch. The sword is cool, but it's a limited coolness. It's like if you're within range and your second turn allows you to run, it's the same thing as using run and gun on an assault class. You'd be able to run up to him and blast him with the shotgun. Now instead you're sword swinging. And the funny thing is the sword actually has a less chance to hit than the shotgun. And so you're actually sometimes, in most cases, better off using the shotgun. So, and the shotgun's also ranged. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm feeling like a little bit disappointed. I wish there was like 2 new classes for me to check out. I wish that maybe the classes started off as one thing. I wish there was 4 trees. So instead of getting a grenadier or whatever it is, grenader, you get a heavy, just like the first game. But now they turn into a grenader, or they turn into a engineer, and they can have their own pet robot, and and a machine gun. And they kind of advance, and then they have 2 trees off that. I really felt like there should have been 8 classes, especially with the amount of times you get injured soldiers and all that stuff. There should have been 8 classes. They should have really upped their A game for XCOM 2, even especially because all the enemy units have all this new cool stuff. Day 2 impressions, basically everything is more polished in the sense of graphics, animations, and that's levels, and then the artwork. But I don't really feel on the game side. I mean, the enemies play differently. Yes, they do play differently. But once you get used to them, it's kind of the same comparison. They're just as scary as they were, but because they're new and they look scarier, their art's been redone, they feel a little bit scarier as a first impression when you first see them. But those snake things, they scared the crap out of me, but now when I see them, I'm like, meh, it's sometimes easier to deal with than a thin man. They just pull you in and wrap you up, and then you break them free and kill them. Sometimes they shoot poison, just like the thin men did. So they're like the thin men with an extra ability. Everything is just kind of tuned to the power of 0.2. As far as everything else, it feels more simplified. I feel like you're getting a less of a game in a lot of senses. So, if you're brand new to XCOM, again, I would say, at least from my impressions so far, after playing the game for 2 solid days, if I went and played XCOM Enemy Unknown for 2 days, right now, I guarantee you'd have more fun than I did here for 2 days. However, for me, I've already done that. So this is a new experience. There's new things for me to look at, new things for me to check out. But I'm not blown away in the sense like, oh, I have a new class. There's really, like, the only thing that's gotten me excited is the specialist. And that's starting to wear. I wish there was like more I could do with it. Now, that in my opinion might change as I get those very last talents, but I'm already making my way pretty close to it. Like if we go to my soldiers, I mean, this guy here, let's see his abilities. You know, yeah, he's almost at the bottom. So I've almost gotten there, and I'm not really feeling excited about which way I went. If anything, when I first started playing XCOM, or XCOM the Long War, the mod, yeah, if you go get XCOM 1 and get the Long War mod, 100% you're gonna have more fun with that. There's more classes, there's more abilities. It's 100% a better game than XCOM2, XCOM 1 Long War mod. So let's hope that that's what they do for this game, because this game kind of needs it, to be honest. This is not, as far as characters and the tools and the gadgets that you have to play with, it's not a far leap from XCOM 1. However, that being said, I like the character models, I like the changes, and there's still more things for me to unlock. There's more missions for me to have at her, and I'm going to have fun every step of the way. So for returning XCOM players, it's 100% worth the investment, the $80 or whatever it is for this game. 100% worth the investment. You're going to be having fun. I've been freaking out on every mission that I get a new enemy type, and I'm almost ready to, I'm going to say that the game on veteran mode is getting easy for me. It's way too easy. I'm smashing these missions. I'm not even having to save or reload. If I was on Iron Man mode right now, I probably could now get through this game on Iron Man mode veteran. If I took a stab at it now, knowing everything, I could do that. So I'm at a point where I'm kind of wanting to restart on legendary or a harder difficulty, because it is getting a little bit easy for me. It's getting almost tedious that things are too easy, and that's the sad thing, because I don't have a whole lot of gadgets yet. And I'm not really getting any more gadgets than XCOM 1. And like I said, with the enemy unknown and the mechs and the psionics and all the extra stuff that they throw at you, there's likely more to play with there than there is here. And I figured if XCOM 2 was going to be the sequel, they've done everything better in every way. Art-wise. Gameplay-wise, it's just different. It's a different gameplay. So it doesn't really feel like XCOM 2, it feels like XCOM 1.5. They just changed it. I figured there was going to be 8 classes, twice as many gadgets, missions, twice as many choices of missions, twice as much strategy involved with the base building. But there's actually less base building, there's less choices, there's the missions almost feel less daunting. You know, 3 waves of enemies and you're done. Almost every single mission's like that. So that's my first impressions, guys, that it's not twice the XCOM. It's just a different type of XCOM, different setting. It's just like how Far Cry 4 was a reskin of Far Cry 3. It was the same game, nothing was really changed, just a different location, right? Whereas Far Cry Primal, it's a different game. So that's the best analogy that I can come up with. Like Fallout 4 was a much improved version of Fallout 3, from graphics to game mechanics and, you know, everything. It was an up the ante on every level. It's just a different experience. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely not. If you like the first one, you're going to like the second one. However, once you've dumped in 200, 300, 400 hours like I have into XCOM 1, you're hoping for more. You're hoping for more. You want 8 classes. You want more options, more strategies, more things to think about when you're excavating, more bases to build. And so far, they're not making me tinker as much as they did in XCOM 1. So because there's less tinkering, you're jumping into missions more. And now that you're jumping into missions more, you're wishing that they were more complicated, and you wish you had more abilities to use, and you don't. So I'm a little bit disappointed in the sense of toys. I want to play with more shit. But that's okay, because they made modular modding come released with the game. People are going to be making mods for this very easily. All the tools, the development tools are being released, and you're going to be able to plug in mods super easy. So this game is going to go down in history because of all the mods, and someone's going to come in here and make 12 classes. Someone's going to come in here and make harder, longer missions. And when it gets to that point, XCOM2 will become XCOM2. But right now, we're just looking at a spin-off, a different flavor. When you go to the store to buy a lollipop, you can get green or red. XCOM1 was green, and we just got a red one. We're getting a different flavor. We're not getting a bigger lollipop, okay? That's another stupid analogy, but I think it works. We're just getting a different flavor. And some of those flavors have pretty wrappers on them. Prettier wrappers, better graphics. And that's it. So day 2 impressions, it's going well. I like it. I'm having fun, and I would definitely recommend this game to somebody. I would recommend it, especially if you played XCOM 1. I say go out and get XCOM 2. It is fantastic. It's awesome. I'm having a blast. If you're a fan of it, you're gonna love it. But if you're brand new to the XCOM series, go get Enemy Within and Enemy Unknown on the Steam sale, and once you're done playing that, go download the Long War mod by the Long War Studios. Then play through that. And by the time you do that, XCOM 2 is going to be on a Steam summer sale by the time you get through all 3 of those game modes. And you will probably have more fun there than you will here. And then when you get here, you're going to be like, oh, the sectoids are improved. Oh, those mechs are improved. Oh, like enemy types. You're going to start looking at the enemy types, and you're going to have more of an understanding of XCOM. So I highly suggest picking up this game after you've played XCOM 1, Enemy Within, and Enemy Unknown, especially if you're new to the series. For veterans, is it worth picking up? Yes, because you're going to have fun. But if you're on a budget and you're like, I can't really do this right now, I'd probably wait for a summer sale or wait for mods to start rolling out, because you're looking at a different flavor. If you're really craving to go back to XCOM and have a lot of fun, and you didn't really play that much of XCOM 1, I would say there's more to be had there, at least from 2 days of playing. If I compare 2 days of playing of XCOM Enemy Within, and 2 days of Unknown, and 2 days of playing this, what was I saying? Anyways, yeah. If you can't afford this game, and you haven't really gotten the full value out of XCOM Enemy Unknown, go back to that. You'll have a lot of fun with it. And then the Long War. If you guys have not played the Long War mod, that offers more. The Long War mod is a better XCOM 2 than XCOM 2. So by putting that mod in, you get like 10 classes in XCOM 1. You get more than you get here. You get new enemy types with the Long War. You get better missions. You get more crafty. You get more things to tinker with. You get more gadgets. The Long War has way more to offer than XCOM 2. But that mod will eventually come here, and this will ultimately be the better game. But if you were to compare the Long War mod with XCOM 2, the Long War mod is way better than what this game has to offer. However, I do like the polished graphics. I'm willing to pay the money for seeing these new things, and I get surprised around every corner. The new enemy types that come out, I go, whoa, what is that? The amount of times I went like this, oh, you know, that's priceless in itself. So that's my updated review, day 2 review. As you can see, I'm a lot less salty. I'm a lot less pissed off, because I'm able to save scum a bit and test some things out and play around with some things. And it's getting a little bit easy, to be honest. I'm ready to up the difficulty. I'm ready to move on. But I kind of want to still play around with things, and I don't want to have to restart and redo all that just to be challenged at this point in the game. I might as well finish it, but I don't know. It is getting a little bit easy. But that's my day 1 impressions. It's definitely worth it. You guys heard the rant, and that's all I have to say. And I'll give another review on this in a week or 2, or when I'm finished. How about that? We'll see. Yes. Alright guys, that's it. I'm Johnny5Alive. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Yeah, that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So I'll report back on the design features, what I think of the map. system, what I think on the different game types or the mission types when I get into it tomorrow. No, they're all freaking out! You stupid idiots! Oh, what? Yeah, throw a grenade at the civilians. Real smart. Oh, shit. This is going bad.